Now, you can make arguments about the Danzig incident where the Poles attacked Danzig and also Germany did a false flag against itself, um, where POWs were sorry prisoners were shot and they're dressed in German uniforms and put on in a radio post, and that was claimed to be what the Poles did. But the Poles did commit genocide against Germans in Danzig. 30,000 of them died. And this is not widely reported. This is why either Hitler saw this as a reason to invade Poland, and because Poland would not negotiate over the Polish corridor, Polish-German corridor because Danzig was between Germany and East Prussia, or Hitler used it as an excuse. Take your pick on your political preference. That's the problem, isn't it? Because you can't get away from politics when you're talking about Nazi Germany. But the 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 problem for Nazi Germany was that it had to, in a sense, it was being forced by circumstance or its own desire for expansion and to unify Europe, because that was the original plan, to unify Europe. And also the Germans for a time shared a common cause with Zionism, where they were going to create Israel, basically, or send them to Jewish people to Madagascar. And I think Hitler wrote that he hoped that they would die of yellow fever. But of course, originally when they were getting some Jewish financial support, they were trying to move Jews to Israel. But this was blocked by the British, who were wary of instability because they already had a problem with Jewish terrorism and Arab terrorism, who were trying to fight each other, and the British were in between and losing soldiers to the Haganah and other native Israeli groups, you know. But there's no question about the anti-Semitism of Adolf Hitler in that. His book Mein Kampf is as vitriol against Jewish high finance throughout the book, and he talks about economics quite widely, but only in terms of ideological things, because he was more interested in architecture and expansion of German land, Lebensraum. So let's continue and see what the economy of Nazi Germany was. World War One and the subsequent Treaty of Versailles, with its severe reparations imposed on Germany, led to a decade of economic woes, including hyperinflation in the mid-20s following the Wall Street crash in 1929. The German economy, like many other Western nations, suffered the effects of the Great Depression, with unemployment soaring to unprecedented heights. Official figures of the time said 6 million, but historians now believe the figure was around 11 million. Now, people weren't just losing their jobs in the Weimar Republic. People were starving to death. That is why when Hitler said bread and jobs, people really went for that. You know, they ignored the other parts of his naked quest for more and more power and his dictatorialness. You know, I'm against dictators. You know. Although Hitler did not see the economy as a top priority, he did see its importance in consolidation of power and used it to his advantage. When he became Chancellor in 1933, new efforts were introduced to improve the German economy, including a policy of self-sufficiency and the construction of the Autobahn. So this meant high trade tariffs to prevent foreign goods entering the economy Of course, no economy is an island, and no man is an island, as the socialist phrase says. Um, where did ironically Nazi Germany get a lot of its economic support? It got it from the Soviet Union. It got its commodities from the Soviet Union, oil, wheat, and other things, and also from Ukraine before the Soviet Union attacked and invaded and committed genocide of some 20 million people in Ukraine, and it killed around 100 million other people in its own territory, in the Soviet Union proper. So why is that not being looked at? That's a good question to ask. Now, this system of self-sufficiency was attempted in America with little success. In National Socialist Germany, however, it appeared that the system was highly successful. In 1938, unemployment had been eliminated, and Germany even lacked enough workers to fill the available jobs. If it had an open door policy to ethnic Germans from across Europe, which it may have had or it may not have had, I'm not certain on that point, might have filled those vacant places of jobs. Despite this apparent success, the spending rate of Hitler was far greater than the growth of the economy. In 1934, Hajamal Schacht, who was the Conservative Minister of Economics, he introduced MIFO bills. Now, what are MIFO bills? The MIFO bills were created by the Minister of Finance, Hajamal Schacht, in 1934, as Germany was rearming against the terms of the Versailles Treaty. They needed a way to fund rearmament and the rest of their economy, of course, without leaving a paper trail. This is where the MIFO bill came in. Hajamal Schacht created this system as a temporary method to fund rearming with only 1 million Reichsmarks as capital. However, Adolf Hitler was still using these bills in 1938, with 12 billion Reichsmarks of MIFO bills were still outstanding. Schacht has later said that his MIFO bill device enabled the Reichsbank to lend by a subterfuge to the German government what it would normally or legally could not do: funding rearmament. The German government needed to spend a large amount of money to fund the Depression era reconstruction of its heavy industry based economy, and modern Germany is a heavy industry based economy based on exports, but at this time they were concerned more with rearmament and getting the economy going through a multiplier effect of reconstructing its heavy industry based economy, and ultimately its rearmament industry. However, it faced two problems. First problem was rearmament was illegal under the terms of the Versailles Treaty, but Hitler said he was going to tear that treaty up anyway, and that's the basis of a lot of his campaign to be elected. And secondly, there was a legal interest rate of 4.5%. The government would not normally borrow extra funds on the money market by offering higher interest rate. However, because of this limit, it was unable to do so, and a large visible government deficit would have attracted attention. An imaginary company. Hajamal Schacht formed the limited liability company Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, MBH, or MIFO for short. The company's MIFO bills served as bills of exchange, convertible into Reichsmarks upon demand. MIFO had no actual existence or operations, and was solely a balance sheet entry.